we wouldn't have a Malcolm X if it wasn't for the Nation of Islam.
I disagree.
I disagree on that too.
Really? Well, I was just gonna say, like, brother, I don't necessarily disagree with too much of that. I will say this though: you
People,
and I both share you and I both share the fact that we was kind of activated by the autobiography of Malcolm X.
mhm.
I can't throw religion completely out of the window when I know that the most important man in my life, aside from my father, came out of religious tradition. That's Malcolm X. You know, like we wouldn't have a Malcolm X if it wasn't for the Nation of Islam.
I disagree.
I disagree on that too.
Really?
We wouldn't have Malcolm X if it wasn't for the continuity of our ancestors who brought Malcolm X to where he was. So the way I see it is that's not the result of any kind of Arab religion. The Arab religion was something that was in his environment. Now the thing is, Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam understood the problem of religion, and they understood that the problem of Christianity was it was the white man's theology to promote themselves and their domination over other people. Now they understood that they needed their own theology, their own religion, and they set out to make their own religion. Now the well that they drew from was I would argue they didn't go deep enough into our African history to understand that what they were drawing upon was something that had enslaved African people for centuries before Christianity even entered the picture. So I think what happens is when we deal when I honestly believe that the thing about Malcolm X is he was not a dogmatic personality. I think he was constantly evolving. His ideas were constantly renewed when he was engaging with new people. He traveled, and ultimately, I see Malcolm X as a Pan Africanist before I care about him being a Muslim. You know, what I mean, he was a Muslim. Garvey was a Christian, but do we value Garvey because he was a Christian, or do we value him because of what he did for our people?
Well, to be clear, I don't know if you heard me say we wouldn't have Malcolm X. I said if it weren't for the Nation of Islam. I didn't say Islam. I said the Nation of Islam.
Oh, it's an organization, sure, but that's one of many.
Exactly. But the thing is, you can't have the Nation of Islam without Islam. I honestly,
You can have other organizations.
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. If the Nation of Islam didn't exist, right? Malcolm X is sitting in prison. Who's talking to him? Because his brothers wrote him. His brothers who were already in the nation wrote him about Islam and about Elijah Muhammad and the nation. And then brothers in the nation who are in the prison already were talking to him. If he didn't have brothers in the nation, if he didn't have nation members in prison with him, who would have been talking to him?
Someone else. I mean, the way I see it, I really think that like sometimes when we look back and reflect on our history, I think we have to recognize that history is a bit more messy than we give credit for. There sometimes just because people make it in the history books, sometimes we overlook the people who did not make it into history books. So what I mean is when the UNIA fell apart or became a splinter or fracture, there were other organizations that were formed as a result of that. So the UNIA continued, the Nation of Islam was started. You have the what is it the African the all African was it the African Nationalist Pioneers Movement with Carlos Cooks. You have many different organizations. So the way I see it is the sentiments of Black nationalism are not. I don't think we can start in 1920 or 1930 or 1940 when we're talking about the genealogy of what produces people like Malcolm X. I think Malcolm X, whether it wasn't him or whether it was someone else, that genealogy existed and other people were a part of it and continued to be a part of it. So Malcolm X is one of the most prolific of those personalities, but I'm not going to give that credit to exclusively the Nation of Islam. I mean, there's too many other influences in Malcolm X's life.
Fair
I mean,
enough.
I respect the contributions of brothers in the Nation of Islam, but I will not put one group above all others. I won't do that.